Hi, welcome back to Paper Fiore. I'm Kristin Sluhan and I'm really glad you're here. Altenew is asking for your help with this hop and making sure that you watch the videos from beginning to end. It helps with the algorithms to make sure that our videos are seen. In doing so, we will have an emoji listed in our videos so that you can put those in your comments. I'm excited to be a part of Altenew's March release, and we are focusing on the Paint and Stamp Flowers set. This set also comes with a coordinating die set for their sentiments. And the wonderful thing about this stamp set is it is going to encourage you to bring out your inner Bob Ross. The stamps are images that are the base for a flower, and then it allows you to use your creativity with brush strokes and your fabulous watercolors to make gorgeous flowers. Also in this release is the Permanent Mist Gray Pigment Ink, which is fantastic to use if you're doing a watercolor project. Unfortunately, I did not have that in my hand for this particular project, but I highly recommend it. I am also using this square grid flip plate for my stamp wheel for this project. I wanted to try it with this technique, but the other flip plate will work perfectly for this technique as well. To ensure my card panel is in the center of my stamp wheel, I am using the center alignment guide for the 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch card front. To help with the placement of my stamps on my flip plate, I die cut the largest circle from the halftone circle die set and adhered it to the center of my flip plate on the back side. I did use removable adhesive for this so I can make sure I didn't leave anything stuck to it. Now, I am very excited about this stamp set. I really think it is going to open up the opportunities for creativity. And using this stamp set, you can create any combination and any design that you want. Now, for my design, I am going to be making a wreath. I wanted to keep it very simple. So I am pulling off all of the leaf stamps from the stamp set. Now, you could use the radial grid flip plate, which came with the original stamp wheel for this technique. I decided not to do it because I wanted to play with my new flip plate. So I am using a piece of Post-it, and I am going to section off 1/4 of my circle that I have on my stamp wheel. Now, the circle is representing the center of your wreath, and you're going to be following along the edge of that wreath and placing your leaves from the stem side out. So that way it looks like it's growing off of a center point of a wreath. Now, at this point, you could get incredibly fiddly, and as a former florist, I do tend to get a little fiddly on this, but I promise you, once you have these laid out, we will go through and do an adjustment if we need to. So it's very easy. Just go ahead and plop them in there. As long as you're following the edge of that circle, your wreath will turn out. So go ahead and plop them right on. Now that I have all of my stamps plopped onto my flip plate, I am going to use a 6x6 piece of cardstock to do a trial run to make sure all of my leaves are going to line up correctly. So I'll remove all of the accoutrement on the outside of my flip plate, and I will ink it up for its first inking, and I'll stamp it down. Then I will do a 1/4 turn to fill in another 1/4 of the wreath, and I'm doing this to make sure that the edges of my groupings will fit together. So once I see that they're fit together, and I'll do the top right quadrant or 1/4, I will flip it over and I will do the bottom left 1/4 of the wreath as well. And now that I see that everything is lining up pretty well, I will go ahead and stamp out the full wreath, take a look at it, and make sure I am happy with it before I continue on to my final project. Now, Altenew is offering this stamp set in a bundle with the new Permanent Mist Gray Pigment Ink, along with 3 of the artist watercolor paints, the red, blue, and the yellow deep. I highly recommend them, but if you don't have them, that's okay. I didn't have them for this project, so instead I opted to heat emboss my images using the Altenew silver embossing powder. I love how embossing powder always adds a lot of shimmer and shine to a project, so it was not a hard thing to give up not having these items. But I highly recommend it if you want a very realistic type of watercolor painting using that Permanent Mist Gray Pigment Ink. Now, with the bundle that Altenew is offering with the stamp set and the ink, they are also offering the tubed watercolor paints. And I will not attempt to massacre the names, but I know it is phthalo blue and permanent yellow deep, but the red I cannot pronounce. The wonderful thing about using just those three colors, you can make every color under the rainbow. When I was a preschool art teacher, that is what I taught my kids. You can make every color under the rainbow with just those three colors. Those are the only three tubes you need if you're on a budget. They're highly wonderful. I highly recommend them. I did not have them on hand, so I opted to use Altenew's 36 half pan watercolor pad, and I absolutely find them to be fantastic. I'm also using the number 4 Altenew brush, and I just wanted to refer back to the insert that came with the stamp set to make sure I knew the brush strokes that went best with each of those stamped images for the leaves. Now, I tend to use unconventional colors when I do some of my projects. So for this one, I decided to go with purple. One of my best friends, her favorite color is purple. And I thought at the end of the day, this would be a lovely card to send her. So I am using Midnight Violet, Deep Iris, Lavender Fields for my purples. And then I added in a little bit of dusk, and I believe it was Persian blue to my purples as well, just to add a little bit of variety. I'm putting them on the mixing plate just so that I can have some mix of the colors. And I will speed up through the painting process so that you don't get bored by it. But I will say this really does bring out your inner Bob Ross. There are no mistakes. It is really so easy to do. You just press down your paintbrush and lift it up, and it makes a beautiful leaf. It's the same way with these beautiful flowers. They are so easy to do. I had so much fun with the stamp set. I really do recommend it. If you are someone who is afraid to jump into the watercolors because you don't feel like you can make the beautiful watercolor flowers that some of our artists make, try this. Start off with this. I am not a watercolor fan. It is very difficult for me, but I had a blast using this stamp set. So just have fun with it. Stick your brush in a bunch of different colors and make something beautiful. I had so much fun. So I really do highly recommend it. And if you look at the insert that is in with the stamp set, it's going to give you the perfect shape. And it really is just about pressing down your paintbrush and then lifting it up with a slight drag. And you have the perfect shape for a leaf. It really could be any more simple. If you happen to put down too much water, like I just did, or too much pigment, use the corner of a piece of paper towel. Just like Bob Ross says, there are no accidents. It's only happy mistakes. So go ahead and play with this. It really is quite cathartic. I think one of the wonderful things about being a paper artist is that this is really our happy place. And I kind of disappeared for about 6 months this last year. In July, my mom fell and broke her neck. So I became a caretaker, not only for her, but also for my father who has Alzheimer's. And while she has made a miraculous recovery in that she is 90% recovered. She had the same break that Christopher Reeves did. And because of by the grace of God and wonderful angels that we had by our side when the accident happened, she has been able to get back 90% of all function. The only residual issues that she has is just some swallowing, and her voice has changed. She has a different voice now, but we are incredibly blessed. And during that time, I did not have a lot of time to be out in my art studio or to make videos. So I do apologize for any of my followers that I had started to get, because I actually had just only started my YouTube channel a couple of months before the accident happened. But I am back, and my goal is to really focus more on doing more videos and doing more instruction, and actually just coming on here and having fun conversations with people, even if it's just me talking to myself. So I hope you're enjoying watching this and are inspired by doing some watercolor. And I hope you actually do try this stamp set and pull out some watercolors. Like I said earlier, watercoloring is not my go-to type of art. I struggled at it in art school, and it was just not something I really could grasp. I think I have more control issues than watercolor allows me to deal with. So now that I have all of my leaves painted, I decided to use the Altenew metallic watercolor paints to actually paint in the center of the wreath with some vines. And I decided to use the silver. And when I used the silver, I had a little bit of the purple water left over on my brush, which made the silver metallic paint a lovely light lavender color. So I used that to paint in all the little vines, just free form. I didn't even connect each of the leaves to a center point. I just added in little simple brush strokes just to give the hint of a wreath. To finish it off, I did grab another brush to do some splatters on it of some more of the lovely silver lavender paint, and it came out beautifully. To add even more purple to the front of my card, I decided to stamp the sentiment "Wishing you a beautiful day" from the stamp set onto ultraviolet cardstock from the new purple gradient cardstock set, and I heat embossed that with the silver as well. Next, I took my card panel and trimmed it down to 4 1/4 by 4 1/4 so that the wreath was in the center of a square piece of cardstock. I then created my A2 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 size card base using 140-pound cardstock. When you use such heavy cardstock as your base, you need to make sure you give the fold a really hard press so that it will stay closed for you. Now, I added more purple to my card front using the scrap left over from my ultraviolet cardstock that I used for my sentiment. Altenew cardstock comes in at 3 inches by 6 inches, so I trimmed it down to 4 1/4 inches and then trimmed it in half to 1.5 inches. So I had 2 pieces of cardstock that was 4 1/4 by 1.5 inches. The cut was a little bit wonky, but that is okay because it will be hidden by my wreath panel. Using the Altenew tape runner, I added adhesive to the backs of the pieces of ultraviolet cardstock and using the straight edge along the top and the bottom of the card front, I adhered them to the front. Now I decided to use this type of design for my card front because Altenew is also releasing a new glitter tape called Moonlit Silver. And with the silver embossing that I've added to the front of the card with my purple, I just feel that is a perfect addition to this card. And I am a glitter girl at heart, so anything that has extra glitter or extra shimmer and shine is right up my alley. After the ultraviolet cardstock and the glitter tape is finished, I trimmed it off so that it's nice and clean on the edges. Now to make that wreath stand out even more, I am adding it to the front of my card with the Instant Dimension foam tape. And I will use the Altenew scissors. They are made so that the foam tape doesn't stick to them. So if you ever have that problem where your scissors are super sticky and gunky because of using adhesives or foam tape when you're trimming it, invest in a pair of these scissors because they don't stick to it. They are fantastic. I highly recommend them. So I'm adding it to the front of my card, and I will also add the dimension foam tape to my sentiment as well. So that will also pop up off of the front. To elevate this card, I decided to finish it off with Altenew's Enchanted Garden enamel dots. They are all in beautiful shades of purple, so it's perfect for this card front. Altenew is also releasing 4 new colors of enamel dots: the Martian Terrain, Sweet Dreams, Frosted Foliage, and even Crystal Clear. So those are absolutely beautiful and wonderful to add to your collection. This is it, my completed card. I hope you enjoyed channeling your inner Bob Ross with me. I had lots of fun doing this, and here are some more cards that I created using the same technique, but with just different colors of paint. And then I also made an all-over paper with the same technique, but just using the flowers, which was absolutely tons of fun. Thank you so much for watching this video from beginning to end and helping Altenew with the algorithm so that their videos are watched. Since we are channeling our inner Bob Ross, I'd like for you to use happy trees or leaves in your comments so that you too can be entered into the giveaways that equal up to $300. Thank you so much for being here. I so appreciate you staying and watching the entire video. I want you to have an absolutely wonderful, colorful day. Bye.